All right, and welcome back to the Dynasty Rewind YouTube channel, everybody. I'm your host, Michael Bauer. The best in the business is once again back in business, and tonight we are going to be doing a team audit. So sorry about the small graphic there. Kind of short notice for us to get this done, but we did it, and we're going to be auditing a new fan of ours. His name is Ryan Blake. He is from the United Kingdom. So Ryan, thank you so much for checking us out, jumping in, talking to me in my DMs the other evening. It was very nice to talk to you. So we are going to take a look at one of his teams. Just going to go through who's with us here. We got Shevin Nooney, Bob Van Duzer, Phil Porkman Simmons, and Nate Christian. So happy to have everybody here. We got the whole crew plus Bob. So always good to have all you guys on here. And let's take a minute and let's talk about Ryan's team. Let's talk about the parameters here. It is a 12-team half-point PPR Superflex tight end premium league. He said it was started last year. He believes that he drafted poorly. It was his first ever crack at a Dynasty league. So the lineup is as such: 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 2 flex spots, which can be wide receiver, running back, or tight end, 1 flex, which could be a wide receiver, running back, tight end, or a quarterback. I'll just read aloud his roster here. He has Kyler Murray, Tua Tagovailoa, Derek Carr, Sam Darnold, DJ Moore, Cortland Sutton, Tyler Boyd, Michael Pittman, Darius Slayton, Hunter Renfrow, Jalen Guyton, Tyrell Williams, Miles Boykin, Tyron Johnson, Lynn Bowden, Darrington Evans, Darrell Williams, Kerryon Johnson, Dallas Goedert, Irv Smith Jr., Mike Gesicki, Blake Jarwin, and he owns the 1.3, 1.4, and 2.0. I don't know what the 2.0 is. I cut that off. Oh, I'm sorry. I did cut off 2.2, 2.4, 2.7, and 3.4. He also has a trade that he's working on too, but we're going to talk about the team first, and then we're going to get into the trade later. So which one of you guys wants to take the first crack at this?
Well, honestly, his team is not the worst team. That prestigious accomplishment goes to that team that we audited last time that's in the listener league. That was the worst team. I mean, honestly, outside of, he obviously has no running backs to the point that he didn't even list his running backs where they should, like, before the wide receivers, like, he just went straight to wide receiver. He was like, we don't need to talk about my running back. But, I mean, Kyler, Tua, Derek, Sam, Darnold. You have 3, possibly 4 starters in the Superflex League. So that's valuable. Obviously, you're not competing this year, so probably trying to trade away, Sam Darnold if he gets a trade and, like, gets some hype, take advantage of that. And then looking at wide receiver, I think he's got a decent core here, especially when you take into account the rookie picks he has. I think he can come out of this a year or two down the road with a really good core of wide receivers. Running back, we said this pre-show, with rebuilds, you don't draft running back until you're ready to compete. Mm-hmm. So it's going to look like this a little bit longer, most likely. And then I'm actually pretty impressed with his tight ends. He doesn't have like a top guy, but he's got 3, possibly 4. Blake Jarwin's healthy. 3 or 4 solid tight ends, especially in tight end premium. So I think he's got a lot to work with here.
Okay.
Yeah, I would even say in a tight end premium league too. Like, I feel like it's really great to have a nice little core, just like it would be for your quarterbacks in tight end premium leagues, right? So I definitely think you did well on that. But like Nate said, the running backs are a little bit rough. I mean, Lynn Bowden got traded from the team that drafted him like a week later, so that's not a great guy to have on there right now. Darrington Evans, never going to see much probably with Derrick Henry back there. So it's very tough. But like Nate said, if you're not ready to compete, it's probably not the best time to grab your running backs because we know those windows close very quickly. And if your team's ready and not ready, you're going to waste them. So I would definitely agree with that. And the quarterbacks, I think, are nice. You got Derek Carr, who's somebody that completes a lot of passes, probably going to hopefully get some more help from his wide receiver game. Kyler Murray could be somebody that where they grab somebody in the draft as well, and his stock could probably blow up a good amount too if he can get another weapon. So, and Tua, it looks like he's going to be the guy for Miami, so that's very exciting. And then the wide receiver class is really good. So I'm not exactly sure what we're going to do with running backs. You might just stick with these guys and maybe pick up some waiver wire duds, but I don't know. It's gonna be
Yeah.
tough.
I think when you have running backs like this and you know you're not competing, you are picking up every running back that is on the waivers, every chance you get. You're trying to hit lightning. You're trying to catch lightning in a bottle with running backs off the waivers because you're trying to find – I mean, obviously you're trying to find like James Robinson, but even a step below that, you're trying to find someone who's going to have a run of games and you're going to try to flip them for a second-round pick to a team that's competing and needs a running back. You know, you're picking up these guys. You don't need to look for the future for the running backs you're picking up. You're just trying to get some value off the waiver and convert it to draft picks or young assets.
Like a Gaskin type from last season, maybe.
Exactly. Yeah. Grab one of those guys, sell them for a second. Be more than happy with that.
Yes.
Right.
I don't know what's on the waiver wire, but a guy that I'd be looking out for, guy like J.D. McKissick. You can find someone like that out there. He's going to be startable. He's going to have a couple boom weeks, and then you could definitely flip him for something too. And just keep in mind that everything has value. So he only put first and second and third round picks in here, but if you got fourths or fifths, use them to move up in the draft for some dart throws. That everyone says this year's James Robinson. Apparently, that's going to be Elijah Mitchell from the University of Louisiana, from what I've heard. Watched this film. Wasn't overly impressed, but I wasn't underwhelmed either, so he definitely has a shot. Bob, your thoughts on this roster?
Yeah, I mean, you guys hit on all the points. Definitely a lot to work with aside from that running back room, and not something you really want to address with those early picks this year because they pile up, tread on the tires quickly. Overall, like I said, the team's, it has building blocks. For me personally, when I start looking at the picks, we kind of talked about this a little bit pre-show, looking to kind of trade down and see what you can amass for value. Me personally, I'm not super wild about the tight end room that he has, just because there's not that number one, that stud. So with one of those picks, I'd be thinking about Kyle Pitts at the 103 or 104. And then with the other one, I'd be looking at one of the contending teams, one of the top teams from the previous year, see if you can trade down for their first this year and their first next year. Keep piling up first. That was one of my favorite Dynasty leagues. That's what I did the first year I went into, total rebuild, scorched earth. I drafted terribly. And I traded my high first for low first and a first next year. And, that was clockwork for me and really helped start my dynasty. And I've won that thing the last 2 years, small flex. But yeah, man, like I said, has some pieces. You have a lot you can play with the 103 and the 104, and you can kind of build it the way you want. We're going to give you a few suggestions. Nate has a bit of a different idea than I do, and I'm sure the other guys have their inputs and their thoughts as well. But in a nutshell, that's kind of where I'm at. Like I said, I want a stud tight end. I want a great quarterback to build around. And then, wide receivers are quote unquote easy to come by because it's a deeper room. But running back's going to be your big problem going forward.
Yeah, I think one thing too that he should look into is if Zach Ertz gets traded, I would sell Dallas Goedert immediately. Strike while the iron's hot. That's what you always have to do when news breaks in Dynasty. You maximize your value. If you can get a guy like Kyle Pitts, and let's say Dallas Goedert stays on your roster, or you like Mike Gesicki, I'd look into moving a guy like Irv Smith because I think his value on the trading block at times could eclipse his fantasy value. There's that potential there. So those are some moves I would make. If you could get back into the middle or the late part of the first round and maybe stockpile some more seconds this year and come out with a really good draft class, that's something that I would look into doing as well. So I think I cut somebody off before, and I apologize.
No, I would say, yeah. I mean, like you said with Goddard, if Ertz was to get tossed out of the room, that's exactly what happened to Irv Smith. Irv Smith got thrusted into the tight end one for the Minnesota Vikings, and we know their targets are going to be scarce because they use their running back out of the backfield. They use Justin Jefferson. They have Adam Thielen. It's Irv Smith. His potential is he's a good athlete. He's a good player, but how much targets and how much production can he actually have with all those guys around him? Plus, they love to run the football too, so that's also another tough part. So,
Sure. Bork, you got any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to look through this team, and the hardest thing for me is my eyes just keeps going down to these running backs, and it's like I don't think you can really win this year, as everybody's saying. So you get that value later on, because I know Mike, you said he has more picks. He got like them mid seconds, some thirds, and some fourths.
He's got some good value in the second round.
Yeah. So if you can get one of those, you get like a nice back in the second round or third round. Don't use them that early, and try to, if you think you can compete. The receivers are pretty good. I love DJ Moore and Cortland Sutton this year. Tyler Boyd, I'm not really sure about, because I keep hearing a lot of rumors that they might take Jamar Chase in the first round. So that might water down a lot of Tyler Boyd shares. So that's the part I'm really worried about too. And then, like, especially with Darius Slayton, I'm not sure if you can even sell him for any value right now, because he's really a hold only because of Kenny Galladay still being there. So yeah, it's you're gonna have to get a whole bunch of value. I kind of was listening to Bob too. I feel as though you can trade down one of those picks, probably like the 104, because with the 103 you're gonna want to take that quarterback, whichever is there, whether it's Fields or Lance or your league, so who's probably going to take who, and then get some more picks for next year, because you're going to need some help.
Puka Williams is what I heard in the third.
If you got some late round picks, I mean, there's going to be some guys, and I'll tell you what, we just help our Patreon here, patreon.com/Dynasty Rewind. We do some great, kind of some lesser name guys that are, they're going to be some dart throws in the 4th, 5th round of your rookie draft. So definitely want to check that out. But let's, so we gave them some ideas there that we could do, and obviously my DMs are open for you, but let's look at a trade that he is putting together. And I clicked that. Of course I did. Okay, so here we are. So here's a potential trade he wouldn't mind getting our opinions on. He would give up Tyler Boyd, the 1-4 and the 2-4, and he would receive Brandon Ayuk, the 1-7 and the 1-11. So he's giving up Tyler Boyd, the 1-7 and the 2-4. I'm sorry, the 1-4 and the 2-4, and he's getting Brandon Ayuk, the 1-7 and the 1-11. So let's just look piece by piece. You're giving up Tyler Boyd for Brandon Ayuk. That's a win. You're giving up the 1-4 for the 107. That's a slight loss. But you're giving up the 2-4 for the 111. So I think if you do that trade, overall, that would be a win.
Yeah.
For the Ayuk side.
I think it helps your team out. And
I
you still have
agree.
that 1-3, so you can
You still
you
take
can
your
take
QB there.
quarterback there, and then at 1-7 you can get one of the top wide receivers to add to your stable. So, and then with the last pick in the first, I mean, you can grab another great wide receiver. So,
And then in the second, you can grab some more great wide receivers. So,
so many great wide receivers.
Yes. My biggest advice to him: stockpile on wide receivers, and when these guys start to hit, and your team gets a little better, then you move them for running backs.
Yep.
So
I mean, his quarterback room's good enough too to trade a couple of those guys, or maybe one or two of those guys as well, especially if he takes quarterback at 3. Because I know those quarterback values are very high in some leagues. So even trading one of the Sam Darnolds, like you said, if he goes to a different team, or even if that's Derek Carr, if he's having a great season, and you're not in the championship this season, there's probably no chance of that happening. But if you can get there next season by making a trading somebody, Derek Carr, that needs a quarterback, that could definitely help you for the future, that what you're really looking for, especially with the roster that we have here. So it's not bad to be rebuilding. You just got to know when it's time to rebuild, because if you keep trying to win and you're a middle of the pack team, that's when you really start to hurt yourself. And we're here to play a game and have fun, but we're also here to sometimes win some money. That's what I hear. So you're not winning money in the middle of the pack.
You got to commit to the rebuild. If you don't commit to the rebuild, you're just hurting yourself. You're just hurting yourself. You're just going to draw it out. And I would love to sell Derek Carr from this team, but you know what? No one's buying Derek Carr right now, most likely.
not right now.
But
Not right now, right?
you have if you're rebuilding, you don't have to make your, elite team this offseason. Sell Derek Carr in the middle of the season, sell him sometime. I would probably sell him before next offseason because I think we might be looking at his job security next offseason. So you definitely want to sell him sometime in the next 8 months. But
it was a shame because he did have a good year last year. I don't want to diminish that. He did look good. It was just,
at some point, your team's not winning. It goes back on the quarterback, So,
right. Well, it was the defense as well.
Even though the defense was terrible.
Yeah, it was
bad.
Does anyone have anything else to add to Ryan's team audit before we head out? Any other advice that you want to give him? Is there any players that you would target? Bob, you got your finger up, so I'm assuming.
So to touch back on Chev's and Mike's point, one of my favorite things to do is to day trade. That's something you're going to have to be, on top of, add people that are hype on the waiver wire, sell them the next day, kind of, monitor situations, when players get traded, there's new opportunity for somebody. And usually somebody value plummets on the other side of that. But, I know the other thing too, the last thing is it's always super popular, in our quote unquote expert leagues for quarterbacks to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And, you saw that in our mock draft the other day. I think it went 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 or something like that to that effect. And the thing is in home leagues, in the leagues I'm in personally, that's not the case. I'm in a 2 quarterback league and that's not the case. Where quarterbacks don't go that way. And that just goes back to knowing your league, knowing how the people you play with value these players. So that's why I think, like I said, personally, I like to build around my quarterback and my tight end. The reason why is the longevity on the position. Wide receiver is similar, but if you get a good enough quarterback, he could be on your roster for 17 years, and that's crazy to think about. And, that's a long way to think outward. But, and same deal with tight ends. These tight ends can be good for up to 10 years, if you get a real good one. So that's why I personally like to build that way. I get it if that's where the value sits, that you're looking to, draft a quarterback at 103 or 104, that's how it is, and these, there are teams out there that lost Drew Brees. There are teams out there that lost Phillip Rivers, and it's no guarantee that they had, good backups behind them. So those are 2 examples of teams that are, looking to buy a quarterback if they didn't have the proper backup. And I promise a lot of teams didn't. So that's all my final thoughts. I think, like I said, with those picks, you have a lot of flexibility on what you can do with them. In terms of trading down, you can I would recommend at least trading down one of them to accrue value. And then maybe drafting, either your favorite quarterback, Kyle Pitts, one of those. That would be my only suggestion.
Yeah. And when you're, if you make that trade and all you have is the 103 in the first 5 picks, when you're on the clock at 103 and you have Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Zach Wilson sitting there, something like that. Sorry, I didn't want to disregard Mac Jones. But
you went 102.
So at 103, you're on the clock, and some guy 106 is like, or 108. It's like, man, I had Drew Brees. I need my quarterback. They're going to overpay to jump up.
Exactly.
That is the time to sell. You jump back. You just stockpile picks because picks are dart throws. In the first round, it's like a 50% chance you get like a good player. It goes down from there. You just get as many dart throws as you can because that's the best you can do right now. And you're just taking best player available and you're just hoping for the best a year or 2 from now. And there's nothing wrong with playing that way. That's fun. One of my teams that I'm rebuilding right now, it's like the most exciting team that I have in any league. Just because I love all the young talent I'm getting, all the draft picks. Rookie drafts can be so much fun. So just because you're rebuilding and you're not winning games doesn't mean it can't be fun.
I have 12 first-round picks in the next 3 years in a league I'm with Mike and Porkman and everybody else. So, but just in our rookie mock the other day, Javonte Williams went 12. Yep. And if you can get that kind of running back at that point, you could probably draft him and trade him away because somebody that's a contender is going to want him. So, there's so much value at the end of this draft for you guys in the first round. So I like I like what I'm seeing out of this guy. I think hopefully he builds it the right way, and hopefully it can grow into one of his favorite teams. That's my goal for him.
Well,
For
Ryan,
sure.
he's going to keep us updated on how his rebuilding is going. Ryan, I want to hear every move you make. Not every single one, but let me know the big ones that you make. My DMs are open to you, my friend. So thank you for checking out the show. Thank you for checking out the YouTube. If you could, tell your friends, make sure you subscribe, rate, and review YouTube. We got a Facebook group as well. Just search for Dynasty Rewind. All you have to do is request to join, and we'll let you in. So until next time, everybody, be kind, please rewind, and thank you for watching this special edition of